بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, how you guys doing? Welcome to part 28 of the Seerah. And today, even though this event is supposed to be in the next week's episode, which is major events that would occur between Ahzab, Khandaq and Hudaybiyah, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, I dedicated an entire episode to this one incident because it's an incident that a lot of people, unfortunately, misunderstand and misrepresent and talk badly about. So of course we're going to take it out in specific and deal with it in specific and address all the misconceptions about it. And I'm of course referring to none other than the evasion of Banu Quraytha. The things that happened in it, what was the decision of the Prophet, how is the Prophet going to respond to the treacherous actions that they did, we're going to see today inshallah. Okay, so on the same day after the battle of Ahzab Khandaq, Angel Jibreel, he came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he told him to go head towards Banu Quraytha and deal with them, attack them, fight them. Because of course we know what happened in the battle of Ahzab Khandaq, that of course the Muslims were winning. They were of course doing good with the Khandaq, the plan that they had. However, Banu Quraytha, they chose to betray the treaty that the Prophet, peace upon him, had with them, and they wanted to go attack the Muslims. This is clearly treason, and we're going to talk about this, exactly what they did. But anyways, now we understand why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is now going to fight them, and why Angel Jibreel gave him this command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyways, once again, we see the Jews in Medina. This is the third tribe, the third of the three tribes that went against the treaty of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They went against the treaty, not the opposite. So never think that any of the things we mentioned today, or maybe the other two expulsions of the other two Jewish tribes, is something bad upon the Muslims, or the Muslims are anti-Semitic, they hate Jews. No, we clearly see what they did in order to deserve the punishment that they got. Anyways, so once again, they go against the treaty of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ immediately calls all the Muslims to announce what the plan is. So the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he calls all the Muslims and he tells them to go to Banu Quraytha. However, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says something interesting. He tells the Sahaba, do not pray Salatul Asr until reaching Banu Quraytha. Because Banu Quraytha, of course, is the name of the tribe, but it's also the location in which they lived in. Anyway, so the Prophet said what? Do not pray the prayer of Asr until you reach Banu Quraytha. So this is what the error was on everyone's head. The Prophet ﷺ, he and 3,000 warriors and 30 horsemen headed towards Banu Quraytha. As the Sahaba are on their journey towards Banu Quraytha, what happens? Naturally, some get ahead of others, some, get tired, so they rest a little bit. They split out. They're not all 3,000 together with the Prophet upon him. So, as they're broken off into groups, some arrive at Banu Quraytha, some don't. However, those who didn't arrive yet, they realize that Salat al-Maghrib is about to adhin. It's about to come. The Salat al-Maghrib, which is after Salat al-Asr, right? So some Sahaba say, let's pray Salat al-Asr now and not wait to get to Banu Quraytha, because if we wait to go to Banu Quraytha, then we're going to miss Salat al-Asr. Then you had other Sahaba that said, what? No, we're not going to pray Salat al-Asr. Even if Salat al-Maghrib adhins, maybe even if Salat al-Isha adhins, we cannot pray Salat al-Asr because of the command of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who said, do not pray Asr until reaching Banu Quraytha, right? Some Sahaba prayed and some Sahaba didn't pray. Now the reason why some Sahaba prayed, even though the Prophet this is a clear instruction of the Prophet, don't pray Asr until you get to Banu Quraytha. Why would they pray? The reason why they prayed, the group that prayed, is because they viewed that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ statement was not to be taken as literal. Rather, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he just wanted to show the importance of reaching and fighting at Banu Quraytha and getting there as fast as possible. That even Salat al-Asr, you would miss it. But he wasn't literal in that sense. That you would never prefer anything over the Salah, but just to show you the importance of us fighting and arriving at Banu Quraytha, he said this. This is the opinion of those who prayed. Now for those who didn't pray, they said no. Whatever the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, we're going to take it literal. He said don't pray, I'm not going to go pray. Even if I, don't get there until Salat al-Fajr, ya'mi. If I don't get to Banu Quraytha, I'm not going to pray Asr. This is the two opinions. Now, before we even discuss what happens next, we see that there's a lot of matters in our religion today that the same thing happens. That those who go and everything that the Prophet said literal, they take it as literal, and those who they take from the asbab, they take from the reasons behind it. Anyway, that's a whole different topic. But we see, and we're going to learn from the response of the Prophet upon him, how we can deal with these matters. So as soon as all the Sahaba, they reach at Banu Quraytha, they immediately go to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they say to him, Ya Rasulullah, before we reach Banu Quraytha, a group of us, they chose to pray, and we chose not to pray. Who is right? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he remains silent, and he does not criticize any of the two groups. The Prophet Muhammad, he did not agree or deny any of the opinions of what happened. Rather, he stayed silent. Even his silence, for those who may know or may not know, the Prophet Muhammad's silence is acceptance. So the Prophet accepted both of their views and did not get mad or did not get angry or did not criticize any of the two groups of what they have done. Now, why did the Prophet do this? Is that the Prophet Muhammad, seeing that both groups were truly sincere in their decision. They did not make a decision based on their own whims and desires. For example, in Uhud, the people who were on the mountain, even the Prophet said, don't move off the mountain. They left the mountain. Why? Were they sincere in leaving the mountain? No, they did it just so they can go get the ghanaim, the booty, the war booty. However, these people, they truly prayed, or they truly didn't pray, because they were truly sincere and they truly believed what they were doing was right, and according to the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. This was both of their groups. Both were sincere and both did it out of love and in their interpretation of what the Prophet Muhammad said. So even in matters today, just to get off topic for a little bit, we can say that some matters fall into this and some matters don't fall into this. We're not going to get into it in this series. We know what do we take literal and what don't we take literal. This is beyond the scope of this series. But it just shows me and you that the Prophet Muhammad, he's seen both were sincere and both acted out of love towards the Prophet Muhammad. So he accepted both of them. Anyways, so the Sahaba, they reach Banu Quraytha. When they reach Banu Quraytha, they hear the Jews cursing at the Prophet Muhammad. And then the Prophet ﷺ, of course, what would he do? As he did with all the other Jewish tribes, he would surround them. He would block off all imports and exports from Banu Quraytha, as he did with Banu Qaynuqa and Bani Nadir, right? This is what the Prophet ﷺ does. Now, when the Jews, they realize what's going on and what the Prophet ﷺ is doing, the chief of Banu Quraytha, who is who? We mentioned him last week, Ka'b ibn Asad. He said, or he proposed 3 ideas to the Jews as to what should they do as a response to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Muslims surrounding them. He gave them 3 choices or 3 ideas. The first is to accept Islam. He tells all the Jews of Banu Quraytha that we have to accept Islam, because if we accept Islam, our wealth, our children, us, our women, our land, our everything, our property, everything is going to be protected, and we are going to have no problems. Everything is going to go good. And he even adds something that wallahi is amazing. He says, and don't think by us accepting Islam that we are going against our religion. He says, because we know and we read in our scriptures the Prophet Muhammad is that in our scriptures the Prophet Muhammad is mentioned and is talked about in our scriptures. So by us accepting Islam, don't think that we're going against our religion, or we're leaving our religion or converting completely out of our religion. No, we're just going into Islam, which completes our religion and even talks about our religion and our Prophet Musa alayhi salam. SubhanAllah, which is very, very interesting, which shows me and you that not only did the Quraysh in Mecca and the disbelievers in Mecca and the disbelievers in Medina know, but also the Jews knew that the Prophet Muhammad was a true prophet, which maybe after the Seerah we can talk about why is this so significant and how can we relate it to ourselves and how do we, how can we benefit from this. Anyways, this was the first idea, to accept Islam. The second idea, which was wallahi shocking that he would even say this. The second idea, he told the Jews or Banu Quraytha, let's kill our children and our women and go fight against the Muslims. Because even if we happen to lose, one, we would be dead, so we don't really care about our land and our wealth or anything. And our women and our children, we already killed them, so we don't have to worry about what's going to happen to them, whether they're going to convert, whether they're going to be Muslim, anything like that. So let's kill our children and do this. Wallahi, it's amazing how low they would go in order to maintain onto their situation. Anyways, the third idea was going once again against themselves. He proposed that, hey, let's wait till Saturday and let's sneak attack the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Muslims. Now, what's so shocking about this is that what is something that is so crucial to the Jews and is in their scriptures? The Sabbath. The Sabbath is on Saturday, right? And for anyone who knows anything about the Sabbath or the Saturday, is that they, the Jews, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in the Quran, even in Surah Al-Baqarah, is that on Saturday they cannot what? They cannot fight, they cannot work, they cannot do X, Y, Z, whatever, etc. They cannot even, most importantly, they cannot fight on the Sabbath. So if they go sneak attack the Muslims are not going to be expecting that they're going to attack them because they're thinking that it's the Sabbath, it's Saturday. They can't do this anyways. But they're going against their own religion in order to defend themselves. These are the three ideas that Ka'b ibn As'ad proposed to his people as a response to what should we do to respond to the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims attacking us. Now, Banu Quraytha, they denied all three of the claims of Ka'b ibn As'ad. They said, we're not going to do any of these. Each one of them is bad. Each one of them doesn't make sense to us. Each one of them is evil. We're not going to do any of this. And this is when even Ka'b ibn As'ad, he even gets angry and starts cursing against his own people, cursing against the Jews, saying that you guys have never made a decisive decision ever in your lives. And he's going off on them, so on and so forth. Anyways, now Banu Quraytha is saying, what can we do? We're being surrounded by the Muslims. Nothing's coming in, nothing's coming out. Of course we can survive some little time on the food and the water that we have, but this is not going to last forever. Even in fact, we have to understand that the Muslims, they just fought in the battle of Khandaq and Ahzab, right? And on the same day, as I mentioned in the beginning, they went to Banu Quraytha. So the Muslims are even, if you can even say, more tired and more exhausted and on less supplies than the Jews themselves in it. But subhanAllah, we're going to see how that's going to end at the end. Anyways, Banu Quraytha is thinking, how can we respond to this? What can we do? Then they remember an old friend that they have that is now Muslim. And we mentioned his name before. His name is Abu Lubaba. They call him and they ask to see him. They request him. So Abu Lubaba, he goes to Banu Quraytha. Remember, I said he had some ties with them. He was familiar with who they were. Anyways, he goes to Banu Quraytha. And as soon as Abu Lubaba, he enters there, the women and the children immediately begin crying and begging him. Please don't do this. Please don't do that. Please give us advice. Please tell us what to do. They start, begging him and crying towards him. And even Abu Lubaba, even if he wasn't an ally of them, even though he wasn't an old friend of them, he is a human. So he is, of course, overtaken by the emotion and the feeling of this. Seeing women and children crying to you and begging you for your help, of course, you as a human is going to be affected. And this is exactly what happened to Abu Lubaba, which even shows you, as we're going to discuss, he made a human mistake at this point. Anyways, so they asked for the advice of Abu Lubaba. Keep in mind the emotional state that he is now in. Of course, he's affected by what they just did to him. So they ask him, Banu Quraytha, what should we do, ya Abu Lubaba? Should we surrender? So Abu Lubaba, what does he say? He says, yes, you should surrender, but then he signals to his throat, signaling to them that if you surrender, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is going to kill you. So Abu Lubaba, he does tell them to surrender, but he says, if you do, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is going to kill you, basically. And even shows you that, just to say what the plan of the Prophet ﷺ was, we're going to discuss exactly what he did. However, this plan of the Prophet ﷺ was never made public. But just going back to Abu Lubaba, he made a human mistake. He did a human error. He made mistakes. And he was, of course, overtaken by his emotions, of course, was taken by over his feelings because of his relationship with Banu Quraytha, and that they were just begging and crying towards him. Anyways, as soon as he says this, he realized that he just betrayed the Prophet ﷺ, and more importantly, he betrayed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So as soon as he realized what he has done, he immediately rushes towards Medina and he goes to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ's masjid. He goes to the Prophet's mosque. He ties himself up to the one of the pillars inside the masjid and says, no one will untie me unless the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ comes and tells me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven me. So right now, what is he doing? He's tying himself up and he's saying, I'm not going to come down unless the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ unties me and he tells me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me for what I did. Which even shows you the how regretful Abu Lubaba was. Anyways, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when he realized what happened and he was told what happened, he said, had Abu Lubaba came to me and told me what he did, I would have begged Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him, and then he would have been forgiven. However, since he acted on his own, then it is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him. So Abu Lubaba, he's going to stay tied up until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives him. By the way, Abu Lubaba, he stayed tied up for 6 days. And then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ informed the people before one of the salahs that Abu Lubaba has been forgiven. that he has been forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what he has done. So the Sahaba went to go untie Abu Lubaba. He said, no, the Prophet ﷺ is going to untie me. So the Prophet ﷺ went to untie him, and Abu Lubaba was forgiven of what he did, and he really showed that he was truly sorry for what he did. So you cannot call him he did something as bad, or he was one of the hypocrites, or he betrayed the Muslims, because we immediately see that he was immediately regretful and asked for the forgiveness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyways, another thing that Abu Lubaba said that he was going to do, he said, I'm never going to go to Banu Quraytha again. I'm never going to be affected or tricked by them as they tricked me before. Anyways, as for the plan of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, now the plan once again to kill them, as Abu Lubaba signaled to the what's called, was not an official plan yet. However, the Sahaba knew that this was going to happen because look at the betrayal that they did to the Muslims. Like at such a key battle, the Battle of Ahzab and Khandaq, which we discussed last week, where 10,000 of the enemies were in front of the Muslims. You have the only weak spot, the only blind spot that can possibly hurt you is Banu Quraytha, and they have a treaty with the Muslims. However, they choose to go against that treaty and try to attack the Muslims. From our right minds, what do you think is going to happen? Is the Prophet going to go with them to flowers and hugs and kisses? It's okay? No, it's of course obvious what's going to happen, as the Jews thought. Anyways, we also know that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is not going to expel them or let them go as he did with the other nations. For example, Banu Quraytha, we discussed when we were discussing events between Badr and Uhud, I believe. We said the Prophet ﷺ expelled them, and most of them went to Sham, most of them went to other areas. They went far away. The Prophet ﷺ didn't kill them, didn't do anything, they went away. Same thing with Bani Nadir. When we discussed the events between Uhud and Ahzab Khandaq, we said that the Prophet ﷺ, he expelled them. However, some of them, they went to Sham, however, others went to Khaybar. And we even discussed last week in the Battle of Ahzab and Khandaq that some of the chiefs of Bani Nadir, they are the ones who went to Banu Quraytha and tricked them into betraying the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ, you could say he's not going to let them go, because if he lets them go, then they're going to do the same thing as Banu Nadir, which is, even though they were kicked out and expelled on the condition that they're not going to attack the Muslims again, just don't get out, don't come back in Medina, they once again, on top of their betrayal, betrayed the Prophet ﷺ again by tricking Banu Quraytha. So the Prophet ﷺ cannot make that same thing again. He cannot give them the same deal and just let them go. Anyways, Banu Quraytha, they finally realized after 25 days that there's no way they're going to escape this. There's no way they can get out of the Prophet ﷺ's his blockade, you can say. So after 25 days, they finally choose to surrender. Now, when they surrender, this is when the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is going to, accordingly act to what he planned to do. However, we have one more problem, is that the Aus tribe, who is Aus? Remember we said Medina a long time ago. Medina is broken up into a couple of tribes. One of them is Aus, the other is Khazraj. The Aus tribe, they go to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and they begin telling the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ to be lenient or be forgiven or be merciful on Banu Quraytha. Why? Is because they also, the Aus, they had relationships with Banu Quraytha. So they naturally, from their own relationships with them, they just wanted them to be forgiven. For the Prophet wanted to be lenient on them. Now the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he can, of course, without any shadow of doubt, he has the 100% right in terms of religion and in terms of even politics. If we were to look at the situation, he has every right to say, no, we're going to do this plan, right? He doesn't have to listen to anything that they say, right? In religion, and of course in Islam, he has all power. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala he's the Prophet, right? He can do this decision. And even in politics, in terms of our standards, of our laws and our countries and stuff like that, we know it's also right for a king, for a president, for whatever leader to decide outside what of his peoples think. Anyways, the Prophet ﷺ, he goes opposite to this. The Prophet ﷺ wanted to show them that the truth is going to prevail no matter what. So he says what? He says, will you be pleased if I appoint one of you, the Aus, to decide what the Muslims are going to do to Banu Quraytha? And of course they're going to accept this. So the Prophet ﷺ chooses who? Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh to represent the Muslims in terms of what they're going to do with Banu Quraytha. And Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, of course, is from the Aus. He is from one of the leaders, in fact, of the Aus. Now Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, he wasn't present at Banu Quraytha because he was in Medina suffering from major wounds that he received from previous battles. So when he heard about what happened, they sent for him and he came, and then he was given, this is what was happening, this is the situation, this is what's going on. So then Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, he goes up and he says, I am going to do nothing except for the truth. Now it's even mentioned that when he said this, even some of the Aus and some of the Muslims knew what was going to happen next, because they knew, even the Aus people who didn't want this to happen to the Banu Quraytha, they knew that that was the truth, that what the Prophet Muhammad was originally planning, or whatever he was planning to do with them, that was the truth. So they immediately got discouraged, like, oh, this is not going to happen the way we wanted. The Prophet is not going to forgive them or let them go, because the truth is clearly that he needs to do something more than that. Anyway, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, he says this, and then he goes up to the Aus, and he goes up even to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and he says to them, are you guys going to agree with me or be pleased with my decision no matter what the outcome? And of course the Prophet upon him, and even the Aus and all the Muslims, they say, yes, we're going to go by your decision. Just tell us your decision and what your verdict is. So then Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, he says what they should do to them. He says, Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, he says that we should kill all the men of Banu Quraytha. And this is when the Prophet ﷺ, he says, verily this is the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the haqq. So Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, he says what? The plan is to kill all the men from Banu Quraytha. Yes, the men and the women and the children are not going to be killed. Rather, something else is going to happen to them, which we're going to discuss. They're going to be taken as captives. But don't use this word captive yet. Don't judge it yet. We're going to discuss exactly what does this mean. Anyway, so Sa'd ibn Mu'adh, he gives this idea, he gives this proposal, and everyone agrees with it, and this is what's going to happen. It even shows you that the truth is going to prevail one way or another, whether it's through the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ or through the mouth of any other of the Sahaba. Anyway, so this was the plan of Sa'd ibn Mu'adh. Now let's talk about the plan in specific and how we cannot view this as something bad upon Islam, or something that the Prophet upon him did or the Sahaba did that was negative or evil or whatever some people may say about it. The first is that we must realize that whatever they're going to do to Banu Quraytha or kill the men is something that is legitimate. Banu Quraytha committed treason. Now for those who don't know, almost every single country in the world, including the country that I am in right now, United States of America, and maybe even the country you guys are in if you guys don't live here, practices capital punishment against treason. Capital punishment is punished by death. So if someone commits treason, meaning betraying the state, betraying a treaty, betraying an agreement that they have, they are punished by death. And this is exactly what the Prophet ﷺ did with Banu Quraytha. So the Jews themselves, even, we have narrations that they even knew that they deserved this. They deserved being punished by death because of what they did. We have many narrations of this that we're not going to go into today. Now, as for the women and the children, we said the men are going to be killed, and why that's right. They committed treason, okay? Now the women and children, what's going to happen to them is that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is going to take them as captives. Now, what does this captives mean? Don't use your idea of what captives is in order to apply this. No, there's a whole different concept of what's going to happen. Anyways, so the women are going to be married to the Sahaba, and the children are going to be taken care of and sheltered and, raised up amongst the Muslims. Now, some people might say, wait, the Muslims married the women? The Muslims took the children and put them in shelter and protection? This is not right. Now, this is the problem with our thinking, is that we think that, oh, since the Prophet ﷺ, he took these women and he married them to the Sahaba, and even he married one of them, is that this is something as bad. Well, let's with our brains imagine what's going to happen. And this is even happening in countries today, is that when a country goes to war with another country, when they win, I'm not even going to say what happens to the women and the children that's there. Either one, they are killed, two, they are raped, three, they are abused and tortured and made as slaves. But look at the Islamic concept. No, we don't have this concept that the women and the children are going to be taken care of, that the women are going to be married. Married in Islam means what? That they have rights, they have rulings, they have to be treated in a certain way, treating with respect, treating with love, treated with all these great things. So by them marrying these women in Banu Quraytha, this is no way something as bad. In fact, they are taking care of people they don't have to take care of. In fact, when all the countries and all the civilizations in past times and in future times, that when they capture women, they rape them and kill them, the Muslims said, no, we're going to treat them right. We're going to marry them, something that is legal, and give them rights. And we're going to give them shelter, we're going to give them food, we're going to give them a place to live, we're going to have, great upbringing. So we cannot even, with our right minds, anyone who is sincere and has any type of sense in their brain can view this as something that's negative. Anyways, even to say that the Muslims killed all the men is something that doesn't have 100% truth, as the Prophet ﷺ did. There are true narrations, authentic narrations, where the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ forgave or let some men from Banu Quraytha go out. Why? Is because he knew that there were some men who were truly against Banu Quraytha breaking the contract, breaking the agreement. They tried everything that they could in order to stop this, or in order to not support this, or in order to try to encourage others not to go against the Prophet ﷺ's treaty, but they chose otherwise. So these men who were truly against the betrayal of Banu Quraytha, the Prophet ﷺ let them go. He forgave them, he let them go. So we even see that the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't really care whether they were Jewish, whether they were Banu Quraytha, whether wherever they were. The fact that they betrayed the Muslims and they did treacherous actions against the Muslims, this is what caused what happened to them. And of course, they were being punished by death. And lastly, if this story of Banu Qaynuqa or Banu Nadir or Bani Quraytha was had any type of negativity, or Muslims are trying to hide these stories, then where do we find these stories in the first place? We don't learn this in our history books. This is not present in our Western history books where we sit down and we study these things. No, rather the only place, or the majority of the information is found where? In our Seerah books, in the Muslim Seerah books. Why would the scholars of Tafsir, or the scholars of Seerah rather, why would they hold on to these stories if it was something that's negative, something that we try to hide? In fact, the only way where you can find these stories is in the Seerah, in these books written by scholars from the beginning of Islam till now. Is that they are the one who preserve these stories. If they had any type of negativity, or we were trying to hide it, they would not be present. In fact, no one would know about them anyways. Now the Muslims, when they chose the plan, of course this is what's going to happen. The Prophet ﷺ executed around 600 men from Banu Quraytha. Maybe not him in specific. The Prophet ﷺ didn't himself execute them. However, it was a command that the Muslims were going to do it. Anyways, the Muslims, they killed around 600 men from Banu Quraytha as execution, as a punishment. The Muslims now had, of course, the ghanaim, the booties of war. They had over 1,500 swords, 2,000 spears, 300 coats of armor, and 500 shields from this invasion of Banu Quraytha. Now we have, this is the entirety of the invasion of Banu Quraytha and what happened to them and everything that happened to it. We clearly seen how this is in no way, whether this incident or any of the incidents happened all of the seerah, whether it's to the Jews, whether it's to anyone. Even when we're going to talk about Fatih Mecca, the conquest of Mecca, how that's going to happen, nothing in the seerah, when you look at it, logically and with your brain and really think and look at the context, the exact thing that happened, and the asbab, the reasons why something happened, there is no way that anything that the Prophet ﷺ did or that the Muslims did during his time was any type of way of negativity, had any type of bad or evil things happening to it. We clearly see that this is the truth. This is what has to happen. Anyways, after the invasion, one event occurred that I have to mention because it's something that's amazing. Is that Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, he soon died, because we said he had major wounds before even the invasion of Banu Quraytha, but now he finally died a great death, in fact. And even to show you the status of Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says what? He says the throne of Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahman of course is Allah, the throne of Ar-Rahman shook when Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh died. Now one thing, just to clear out any misconception that you might have, wait, how did the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shake? One thing is that this question is something that has no benefit to us, so we shouldn't even be asking this question. However, just to make sure that we understand this concept, is that the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has full control over the throne. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills the throne to shake, then it shakes. There's no problem with that. But just to show you that the exact how did it shake, or did it do this is not something that we really think about, really care about. But anyways, Sa'ad bin Mu'adh was such a great person that the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shook when he died. And then, as Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh is being carried to his grave, some of the men carrying him said what? That this body is light. That's when the Prophet ﷺ said, this is because the angels are carrying him to his grave. SubhanAllah. So we see the status of Sa'ad ibn Mu'adh, and we even see through the experience that he had with Banu Quraytha and his decision that he made and how he stood up for the truth, reflects about his status and reflects about how he is a Muslim. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then reveals Surah Al-Ahzab, which shows us and teaches us some things about the Battle of Ahzab and the Battle of Khandaq. And it tells us about the treacherous actions of the Jews and their habit of breaking these treaties and these agreements between the Prophet ﷺ and the Jews. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you guys for watching once again. As we've seen from this episode and other episodes, these topics are crucial for us to learn in order to understand Islam and in order to answer any person, I'm not just going to say person, who chooses to go against Islam or point out these little incidents in Islam and say Islam is evil or Islam is false because of this. If we had any type of mind, or we were any type of we had any type of academic research as we claim to do. When we sit down and we absorb the sources and we look at the sources and we see what truly happened, it makes 100% sense. Like, I really, from these incidents like this, I really increased in my iman as a Muslim, seeing that in any situation, that anything about Islam is looked at as negativity, when I research it, it makes 100% sense to me. Anyways, we went over this topic, which is one of the events that, like I said before, that happened between Ahzab, Khandaq, and the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Next week's episode is, of course, going to be talking about the other events, the other major events that happened between this time period, and we'll discuss exactly what those events are and what we can learn from them. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you share this with all your friends and all your family members, anyone that you feel can benefit from this. As we clearly see, these are things that we must know as Muslims. So let's keep together on the Seerah series in order to learn about the Prophet and learn about our religion. See you guys next week.